Hi, and welcome to Coach's Corner, where systems matter and both personal and professional learning and development is beneficial for everyone and essential for some. As always, please like, subscribe, comment, share, and hit the notification bell. Let's get started.
And so, I know I kind of asked it, like a one thing that you realized when you went from the 223 employees to then owning your own sales business and having, the 10, was there like a one main big difference that you were like, okay, this is different than I expected?
No, not really, other than I had to go and recruit the people in. So we didn't have any money and it was just commission only.
Right.
So you had to sell them on a dream. To me, you have to be a much better quote unquote salesman versus, hey, I'm going to hire you. So, we had to hire the 223 employees, but there was money already there.
Yeah.
So here you had to sell them on the fact of, hey, you can come in and make a lot of money and help a lot of people, but there's no guarantee. Over here, it's like you could be crappy and you're still going to get, paid the same amount.
Yeah, got it. And so that was my little way of setting my up for the next question. So like you said, commission-based.
Yeah.
Did you have any employees that came up to you at the end of the week or month and were like, hey, where's my paycheck? And they hadn't done any sales and you were like, dude.
Yeah, no, because I explained it to them up front.
Okay.
I said, hey, this isn't for everybody. Because, there's also a difference in sales, like what I call retail sales. That's not difficult, right?
Right.
So, because technically speaking, the Walmart employee is a retail salesperson or Radio Shack. You're going in for a certain reason. And sure, if you're a better salesperson than the guy next to him, you're going to sell more.
Right.
But in the end, it's not like, what I would say life insurance or real estate or whatever, where you got to go drum up the potential, what I call prospects or leads or whatever. And so that's, a lot more difficult.
Right. And so when it came to, these self-employed independent contractors that were hired.
Yeah.
And word came back that, they were being shady.
Yeah.
Well, first off, did you ever have that problem with any of them? And then if you did, how did you deal with it?
Yeah, so not on my team. So there was the company.
Yeah.
And then there was probably 10, manager type guys that had their team of 3 or 30 or 50 or whatever. And so when I first left the school district, I moved in with the guy and we were sharing an office because we were already busting at the seams. We were growing so fast.
Okay.
And he was a great salesman. He wasn't a good builder of a team, but a great salesman.
Okay.
He could sell, ice to Eskimos.
Yeah.
Well, that was the first time in a year and a half I was listening to him. I'm like, dude, that's kind of shady. Like, that's not really the truth. Mm-hmm. So I went to the CEO and I said, bro, here's the situation. And he said, well, that's, is what it is. And so then I came home and talked to my wife and I said, hey, I can't handle this. And she was pretty cool. She looked at me square in the face. She said, well, did you ever work for a shady principal? And I go, yeah. And she goes, well, what's the difference? And she said, it doesn't matter what they're doing. You're helping people in the right way.
Right. You're doing your.
Yeah. And so I thought that was a pretty cool, wise thing to say,
Absolutely.
I'm like, girl, what's up with that? I'm supposed to be the one that has the wisdom, right? And but then the second part of that was I did leave 8 months later. I just couldn't take it. Yeah, like we had talked about with that one coach. I was getting ready to start talking bad, and I don't play that. Like there's enough negativity out there in the world to where I don't have to play that game. And so that's when I said, okay, I'll open up my own company. Mm-hmm. But before that, actually, I went to another company, and that lasted all of about a month because I didn't really believe in their product, which I thought I did.
Got it.
And I was like, deuces out, and I just went and opened up my own company.
Got it. And then when you opened up your own company and you had your team built underneath you, how did you keep them so focused, towards that goal? Was it because of the company system? Was it because of you? What do you think it was?
Sure, I think it's all of that, right? So we had a good system. We had what we call gatherings. Most people call them meetings, but I call a gathering would be a training, a meeting, a one-on-one, a group. I just call them gatherings.
Got it.
And, just to get everybody focused. You guys go through that
Yeah.
You know, the inner circle people go through that with me.
Yeah.
Every Monday we meet,
Yep.
make sure we get on the same page. What are you going to be doing? Right?
Yeah.
Just kind of focus, especially with self-employed independent contractors,
Yeah.
because they could go into la land. So we would meet with the inner circle group, so to speak, on Monday mornings, and then we had a second one for the part-timers that were trying to figure out, do they want in or out. We do Tuesday evenings.
Okay.
So, you know, we were able to do that. But I also think it's a Tom Brady situation, right?
Yeah.
So you could have the best system in the world,
Right.
but I think that I motivate people. I stretch them. I,
Yeah.
influence them, and I, hold them accountable. But I'm also always training and helping and guiding.
Yeah.
So, it's not easy necessarily always to be where
Right.
I'm at. But in the end, there's going to be a greater divide.
Yeah.
So, I won't say who, but I know somebody really well who's worked in the school district for 30 years, and they've had very few people that came back to them and said, man, you've made a difference in my life. I've
Yeah.
had 40, 50, 100, too. I mean, I've had a bunch that have done that. But it's because I put it out there in a way.
Right.
So I think it's a both and situation. The person's going to matter
Yeah.
as well as the system or the structure.
Got it. And so before we move on to the next topic, which will be, setting up meetings, different things like that.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that that I didn't ask you, or that you'd like to add to the party?
I don't think so. I think you're doing great, buddy.
Okay. All right.
I'll give you a raise,
yeah.
a nickel.
I appreciate it. So when it comes to running a meeting or a gathering,
Yeah.
what is your system for that?
So we have a thing that we start with. So first of all, I do all the prep work. I play king and queen of the world.
Okay.
So I talk to the people. Hey, what do you think? What do you? So I'll find out what do they think the agenda should look like. So I start there.
Got it.
Then I do my own. Then I talk to what I call the muckety mucks, the inner circle people. Hey, what do you think? And then there's just a format. So the first thing is I always say, thank you guys and welcome, even if it's the same people.
Yeah.
And I say your time's extremely valuable.
Mhm.
And then we do it logistics, and we say, hey, this should be, an hour. And if I don't know the time, usually I know the time. Like lately with what we've been doing, as you know, it could go 2 hours, or it can go 60 minutes. We just don't know.
Yeah.
But there's a lot going on right now. But usually I know, and I won't go over that. Like once I commit and say it's 60 minutes and we're not done, I don't care. I'll stop. I'll just be like, that's it. We'll pick it up next week or whatever, because I want to be a respecter of people's time.
Yeah.
And then we do a thing called OTJ, where people can, it's a complete open forum. I'd like to talk to you about that in detail sometime when we have a little bit more time.
Yeah.
It was one of the best learning tools, me working with adults, whether it's 223 or the 30, with AmeriCorps or any adult.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it wasn't something that I necessarily, had thought of up front, but it wound up being great.
Yeah.
But it's just a way for people to put out anything on the table that they're having issues with personally or professionally. Usually it starts as a praise fest.
Yeah.
Oh, I love you. Oh, your eyes are beautiful. And we used to laugh because, if Johnny's over there, he'd like, oh, I love Nick's whatever.
Yeah.
And then you're going to go, oh, I love Johnny. And then, I'm
Right.
like, come on, guys.
Yeah.
But it would be a praise fest. But eventually it gets to that cathartic moment where we're being real.
Yeah.
And we're saying, you're a donkey, and you're a donkey because of this.
Yeah.
And and we hash it out, right?
Yeah.
Because a lot of times what people, they don't want to talk about the elephant in the room, right?
Right.
So then we go into usually when things are going, we haven't done that much with you guys because it's a smaller group,
Mhm.
but we do like icebreakers or team builders or, something fun like that.
Got it.
And then we get into what I would call like discussion topics.
Mhm.
And then we get into, action items.
Okay.
And then we'll wrap it up with what we call a review, a reflection, and a debrief.
Okay.
And so that's kind of the format of a pretty good gathering.
Got it.
And I've done a bunch.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've done a bunch.
And like I know you said that take 2 hours, 30 minutes, whatever.
Yeah.
What would you say that the average meeting time was for you?
Well, once we got it down to a science, we would go 30 minutes. We weren't trying to play around.
Yeah.
And I've done an 8-hour agenda before and throw it in the trash.
Mhm.
And this is an example of one actually, and I'm going to have to come back to that question.
Yeah.
So we were doing consulting in LA,
Mhm.
and the weekend, I think it was a Friday, before they had to go back to work for the first time on Monday, These guys were in heavy duty negotiations, and I'm talking heavy duty. And so there was like 50 to 100 people in there. I can't remember. And we're in an auditorium, and it's Friday at 8 o'clock in the morning, and these guys look like death to warm over. And I created this agenda and worked hard on it, and because we were going to be working with them for the next couple of years.
Yeah.
And so we have our system that we do. And I looked at them and I go, "You guys look tired to me." And they go, "Yeah, we're beat." And I said, "Great." I said, and I had to travel 2.5 hours to LA, which means 4 hours, as you know, because it's the traffic. Yeah. And it took me 4 hours to get back.
Yeah.
And I forfeited my check for the day, and I said, the best thing I can do for you guys is to send you home.
Yeah.
They needed the rest.
Right.
So I said, go home, we'll pick this back up, so on and so forth. So the AmeriCorps agenda was 8 hours every Monday.
8 hours.
8 hours of training every single Monday.
Okay.
But most of them, I would say, if you can't get it done in 30 to 60 minutes, there's a problem there. Once you get cooking.
Yeah.
If you're trying new stuff, it's going to go, because there's a lot to work through. It's going to go bigger and more and all the above.
Right.
But for the most part, once you get to going, you should be able to get stuff done in 30 minutes or less.
Got it. And as you said, you've done multiple meetings.
Yeah.
Or gatherings.
And trainings. And gatherings, right.
So, other than, the system and you being, a great observer of people and reading body language and stuff like that, why do you think your meetings were so successful? Because obviously after the meetings or the gatherings or the trainings, they were able out to go and produce those different things. That's why they kept hiring you or coming back to you.
Well, it's ownership, right? Mm-hmm. So people didn't understand. So they would look at my meeting when I would run it.
Yeah.
And you got 30 people or 200 people shaking their head, right, the whole time. What they don't know is, what did I do beforehand? Right? So I didn't just sit in a vacuum in my office and go, wonder what I should do this week. I went and talked to people. I talked to the kids. I talked to their parents. I talked to the workers. I talked to the highest of high-level superintendents. I talked to principals, vice principals. I talked to the janitor. I talked to the secretary. I was getting 360-degree input and feedback the whole time. Right. And what you would do is you'd figure out trends, just like brainstorming we talked about. Oh, this is a food category. Or, oh, this is a behavior guidance problem. We need to probably work on behavior guidance. So I wasn't sitting there going, So everything was very meaningful and engaging, because I'm not out flipping a coin or guessing. Right? I have my own thoughts, but I'm going to go check in with the people and see what they say.
Yeah.
And once they said blah, 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 then guess what? I created an agenda around that.
Right.
I mean, what makes sense?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Got it. And then when you were running these meetings, gatherings, did it matter, or was there a specific time, place, different things like that mattered for the meeting to get the best output for the following week, or however you say that?
Yeah, so to me, I like to do something Monday morning to get everybody off on the right foot. Okay. Right? So, that's what I do with you guys. Yeah. Monday morning, that's the way it is. Now, sometimes it doesn't work out that way. Right. But if I had my choice, I used to have a situation to where I did gatherings the whole day. Back to back, all on Monday. Yeah, because I wanted everybody to get out there, get on the same page, mindset's right. Is there things you need to work through? Can we talk about, all of that? Yeah. So then I knew, hey, that gives me, production. So with the best of the best, you get them early, right? Yeah. And then, right? So you look at, the inner circle Monday morning, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, whatever, early. And then maybe by the end, you're dealing with the other 223 people. Yeah. But to still kind of get them focused, make sure we're on the same page, let them, talk about things that are frustrating to them, or things that are great, or, that kind of stuff. So, I mean, in the end, a meet or a gathering is a gathering. Yeah. But if I had to, I would like to do it, Monday morning as early as I can.
Yeah. Got it. And so this next question, everyone's going to get probably negative connotation, but let me explain myself after. Is there mental warfare behind a meeting or a gathering? And when I say that, everyone thinks mental warfare is, Conor McGregor, right? Getting in your head and demoralizing them. I don't mean it like that, obviously. Yeah. I mean it to, rally the troops or get them off.
Sure.
So Yeah, is there mental warfare involved in a meeting?
Yeah, so I call it psychological warfare,
Okay.
but it's the same thing, and it's hard words, right?
Yeah.
Mental warfare.
Yeah.
You're like, "Rah, we're going,"
Yeah.
but that's just a word that I used to use. So I would play king and queen of the world,
Mhm.
and then look. In the end, the best you can do is short-term motivation. It comes internally, or it doesn't come at all.
Right.
However, we know that fear works in the short term,
Yeah.
right? So we're talking, this is a sales video. So when we're talking about selling,
Right.
you're preparing in these gatherings so that you can sell,
Yeah.
right? And so fear works.
Mhm.
I hate it, but it works.
Yeah.
But does it work in the short term or the long? So I'd yell at my kids sometimes, and I knew I'd be like, yeah, I probably got an extra hour or day out of them, or maybe 3 days, right? But what you try to do is to teach internally so that they can have a paradigm shift, right? I call them the paradigms.
Yeah.
The paradigm shift,
Mhm.
so that they could, want to do that from internal, because that's long lasting. That's like when people talk about, well, I'm gonna lose weight for my grandma. I'm like, no, you're not. At best you may go a day or two, but short term motivation is short term motivation,
Right.
and that's external motivation. You gotta tweak or adjust and figure out how can you bring that from the inside.
Got it. And as we move to the next category, we're going to be talking about having a great month and having a bad month.
Yeah.
So first, when it came to having a great month for you,
Yeah.
Did you ever have those post-month blues where you're riding this high and then that next month it just faltered? And if so, what did you do to get back onto the horse, so to speak?
Yeah, so I may have to ask you that exact same question like 3 times, because there's a lot going on there.
Okay.
So first of all, my mindset was not about my sales.
Mhm.
Now I have my goals, don't get me wrong,
Yeah.
but my mindset was the kid in the woodpile.
Mhm.
One step, one step, one step.
Yeah.
So I knew that if I made more contacts than the guy next to me, I win.
Right.
Because a lot of sales is a numbers game, right? But I was able to also be smart on that and say, well, it's not just 100 to 100, but if I get 100 people that's in my hot market, meaning my mom, my dad, my uncle, my aunt, my cousin, the stuff, whatever, or what I would call the semi-warm market, which means I may not know all your friends, but they know you, and if you have good credibility, then I can get their phone number and contact them, and so on and so forth. So the first thing is that I didn't necessarily make my determinations on success based off of that end result of money, or in my case, how many people that I helped. That was always my number one.
Yeah.
I said, help enough people, the money will come.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't, then it wasn't meant to happen. Go try a new profession, right?
Got it.
And so to me, there was a whole mindset of what is success. But so I would peek up and I go, oh, there's the wood pile way over there. But I'm a kid right here in the dark, and I got the flashlight, and I got to do what? I got to take one step. Well, what's one step? Make a contact.
Yeah.
Hey, Joe, I need to set an appointment with you where I can go blah, blah, blah for about, 30 minutes or an hour. I won't go over 60 minutes. When can we get together?
Yeah.
Right? And they'd say, well, what is it about? Well, that's what I need 60 minutes for.
Yeah.
Well, I understand, right? I'd broken record them, and then eventually I'd get the appointment.
Yeah.
Then I would say, okay, so just to make sure we're clear here, Joe, I have never missed an appointment in 9 years. But I can promise you this, I value people's time. If I'm going to miss, I will let you know as soon as I can, meaning at least 24 to 48 hours, maybe 72 hours, unless it's an absolute emergency.
Yeah.
And I said, but I've never missed an appointment, and I've never not called.
Right.
Including the time I went to ICU and almost died.
Mhm.
I had my wife call when I was in and out of consciousness. Got an appointment with Joe Collins, right?
Yeah.
So I've said all that, and I said, so I would imagine with you being of great character would treat me the same way I'm going to treat you. And if you're going to not make the appointment, that you would, right?
Right.
So now, not only did I set the appointment, I set a solid appointment.
Yeah.
So then we go, I know you didn't ask this, but the next level is pre-appointment routine.
Yeah.
Somewhere between 30 minutes and 90 minutes, I would contact them to confirm, not remind.
Right.
So when my dentist calls me and says, I want to remind you about, I said, no, I'm a grown folk.
Yeah.
You don't need to remind me of nothing. I think what you're trying to say is confirm. And she does that with me now. Same lady for 20 years.
Yeah.
You know, because I'm always a teacher. I want to
Right.
teach. She probably was like, you know, screw you very much at first. But it makes sense, right? We're grown people. Now, we know we're reminding them, but we're just saying it a little different.
Yeah.
So then my ratios of missed appointments were very low because I'd already really tightened it down and said, I won't miss that. You're a good character, neither will you. But then I do the, because everybody's like, oh yeah, they don't remember.
Yeah.
Right? They're like, oh crap, I got to get there.
Right.
Right? So when you take a look at that part of the system, and then you do little tricks of the trades or best practices, ratios go up. Ratios go up, more sales.
Right.
So in the end, if I did all of this,
Right.
if I did the nuts and bolts and the best practices and the trick trades, guess what's going to happen?
Yeah.
That number was really going to be steady Eddie. Whether that was I do 100,000 this month and only 10,000 next month, as the average goes out at 50,000.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Gotcha.
If you need to contact Brett or Coach, please do so on his social media accounts, email, and or text. You can find that information in the description below. Again, please like, subscribe, comment, share, and hit the notification bell. Thanks, and we hope you enjoyed.
I've mastered the art of negotiation. I've mastered sales. I've mastered how to lead people. I've mastered how to run meetings. I've mastered, so anything that I've really wanted to master, I go after with what they call reckless abandon.
Yeah.
Yeah.